What's going on? Authoritarian, you hear that? Look, man, synchronicities are just freaking. It's just like, you ever seen those pictures of when someone's brain, the activity in it sparks up, and there's all these explosions of lights and energies? It's like that right now with the synchronicities. But I was making that video. It was like somehow Google Gremlin shut off my sound recording, so I was blabbing on for like 15 minutes, and nothing even got uploaded, freaking unfortunately. But I was mentioning Vegas, the historical false flag context, and it's like, it's already like, look, Tupac was assassinated in uh, Las Vegas. And I was mentioning how this guy Steve Coakley, who basically they sprinkled some crack on him, it was drug related murder. But I remember watching his Coakley tapes video of him watching when the Vegas thing went down with Tupac and Suge and them, and he was saying something don't add up. Uh, and it's like, that was funny to watch that because he didn't have all the. They were using VCR tapes, and it was funny to watch him twerk that method to use as a platform to teach people in a seated, or crowded room how much easier it is now. It's almost like, look, knowledge shall increase, right? And you go to and fro across the world on the internet. It's like instantaneously, and then you can just Google up information, record it. It makes these things so easy. When we were young and we didn't have access to all this stuff, like, and like the great ignorance that was there, because there wasn't no access to stuff like information that will break you, like, really, like, look, to get to the point where you recognize that youth is vanity. You got to make it to uh maturity before you can look back and say, yeah, youth is vanity. And thinking back from the youth, seeing Pac in these pictures spitting at the camera, it looked like he was a really violent thug savage, like chew your eyeballs out. Like, I seen this thing, Mr. Untouchable. There was this freaking journalist who called him up and said, well, either you're gonna come, we're gonna do a piece on you, and either we take a picture of you, or he goes, and if you don't come, I'm gonna put your mugshot on there where you got caught with cocaine, and their mugshot looks like you want to chew out someone's eyes. I'm gonna put that on there. And the dude went down and did a photo shoot for these journalists. But it's like, that's the way it works. And it seems like Pac, they probably gave him an opportunity to come talk to someone, and he was like, fuck you, thug life, and look, and they smeared him. It seems like that in the journalism. He was even saying how they was hyping it in the interview with Snoop, and how they were hyping the beef. So it's like, he was being set up to be a patsy, and they were attempting, because he was born into a Black Panther family. He was basically born under surveillance by the intelligence agencies, because they had think tanks in those days where they would look and do these operations against any potentially perceived enemies. And they seen these black separatists, black nationalists, organizations as a potential public enemy number one. And at the same time, you had this Indian, in the same era, you had the Indian AIM movement, where the FBI basically patsied some Indian dudes and said that they fired first, and then you come to find out it's automatic FBI federal rounds. And it's more Fast and Furious style operations where it's like provocation. That's the thing I was saying about Pac. By seeing him so angry, spitting at the camera, and now having been gang stalked, I can see that he was also targeted. It was in his behavior. It's like PTSD. It's like, even though you'd be like, man, what's bothering him? You ever had an instance where someone just goes off and you're like, damn, what's fuck's bothering you? You might not realize that they've been targeted, bullied. I seen a documentary called Multiviews, Cults of Abuse, and it was about Scientology, how they have these operatives do street theater on you, and they make you mad, and then when you start to go crazy, they record it on camera. You know what I'm saying? It's a paparazzi technique. It's just psychology. You're using reverse psychology. It's like, look, I might not be right, but look, if I can get you to act out, I can paint you out to be wrong automatically. You know what I'm saying? But we won't show them the provocation. Just like, with Pac, they try to paint him out as a rapist. Uh, but really, he got charged for inappropriately touching a woman's buttocks. And I'm like I was even saying, it's like, look, I've seen that happen many times in life, and it's like, look, yeah, it's frowned upon, shows someone's kind of got a lack of boundaries. You know what I'm saying? But look, it's really just like it ain't nothing to make a real big freaking deal about it unless it's like happening often, or if you're doing it like, look, if you're at the club all dressed like that and someone does that, well, what do you expect, man? It's like, and these are dudes, vain young dudes. Youth is vanity. So it's like that's the type of environment you in. That's the type of stuff you're gonna get into. You know what I mean? But anyway, they hyped it up to make him look like a rapist, terrorist, creeper. And that's another like operation that I see that they do on people where they set them up as children and they get them as sexual predators, right? They label them that, and then they experiment on them for the rest of their lives, like the psychologists do, because this is a awesome FBI profile target. It's like they love to be the psychologists of crazies, of sickos, and I even realize our vain imaginations. It's just like say, FBI profiler catches some serial killer, but his imagination that he used to zero in on the profile of the guy. But what if you start to be racially profiler, stereotypical profile, but this fact that you caught the one guy, but the pride and the ego, and you can't profile the fact that you're a freaking megalomaniac. You know what I'm saying? But you can profile everyone else that's a sicko. So many times these egos and prides have been projected on people, and they've been painted out to be this bad guy. And they weren't really. It was all bullshit. And it's like Josh Potash. He does this freaking little documentary or this thing, just like Steve Coakley, kind of about the whole Pac thing and how there's government. Did you hear I said government on the TV as I said it? Look, there's government documents saying that Tupac was a target of FBI operations like COINTELPRO, gang stalkers, workplace mobbing. That's real easy to do if you're a musician. The FBI could slip a bunch of dudes on the street $50 to go in the thing and then harass you. You know what I'm saying? And it's all done to make you look like this fucking savage, but it's no one else sees the provocation, and it's just basically, we're the government, we can be a gang and bullies, and we got the justification. And if you don't like it, f you will make your ass patsy. You know what I'm saying? Or they'll blackmail you, and that's the thing. They were using blackmail to get the informants in with Pac, where these informants also help to foster this environment of treachery, and plus, no, it's like, you ever had that, like, man, I got this bad feeling. It's because it's like you're around someone who has ill will for you, and they're basically giving you the evil eye, and it's just like it's disturbing your peace, and you can feel it, and it's like, I just can't put my fucking finger on it. So it makes you hyper vigilant because it's a real fight or flight thing kicking in, like where you're starting to fear for your life, like there's a plot, a conspiracy against me. I don't know who's in on it, who ain't. And you could see Pac was starting to exhibit some of these symptoms, and it's like basically PTSD. PTSD is a combination of fearful things, but it's also your own guilty conscience sometimes can create PTSD, where you done something wrong and it's like you just never made it right. That's the same thing with that. They use with these informants is they catch people with these kind of like dark secrets, and it's like they use them out of they use their shame. You know what I'm saying? It's like us from the public, it would look like this man has no shame, but you didn't see what went on to provoke it, and that literally they used him in a false flag operation where they tried to basically like they were gonna take Biggie, take a knife with Tupac's fingerprints on the bloody knife at the crime scene where Biggie at. Puffy's knife stuck in Biggie with Tupac's prints on it, and then uh like, look, basically whack Pac, drop some crack and a gun with Biggie Smalls prints on the in Vegas. And they were trying to do this to spark an inner Willie Lynch race war of the Black Panthers, but instead it ended up unifying them. And they, like, out of spite, they they ended up terminating their operatives. And it's like, look, people don't realize this hip hop police thing and freaking how, like, look, like police and ramparts and CIA operative, like code task force operations, hip hop police, they own record companies, and then they get their operatives in there as race baiters and as these kind of agents of chaos that they're Pied Pipers that they make people start to spout off the things they said, but the people think it was their own idea. Once again, this is your perfect weapon of mass destruction, is that it was just a suggestion. So the real man who's really did it all is just, he's using a cutout. Everywhere you go, it looks like this guy was the initial guy, but not seeing that there was a guy behind all of them who just kind of instigated the whole thing. But everyone basically just gets useful idiot, or they get their ego stroked, so they stay in on it. Like, they get used as as an operative in someone else's campaign. And I understand that's like, it's intentionally leading me to this guy that ain't really, that this was just a diversion. This is
social manipulation and infiltration.
yeah, exactly. That's what COINTELPRO is about. That's why they get their guys in political positions. That's another thing. Pac was talking about making a political party, a third party type. He said, "All ye lost tribe motherfuckers," in this interview, and it's like, look,